back here on the Cover 3 podcast. The Miami Hurricanes have taken their first loss of the season, 28-23 to Georgia Tech. This is the second consecutive season that the Yellow Jackets have upset the Hurricanes, this time doing it at home in Bobby Dodd Stadium. Big win for Brent Key, who now has Georgia Tech bowl eligible at 6-4. They had their game against Florida State, run the ball. And sure enough, they ran it for, I think, 271 on like 48 carries or something bananas like this. Miami in the first half offense was stanking, couldn't keep a drive alive to save their lives. And Georgia Tech was just able to like not overwhelm Miami's defense, but just like they did a better job on third downs. They put together some long drives. And even though the final stat line looked great for Cam Ward, it felt like it was the most human Cam Ward had really looked, maybe going back to the first half against that Virginia Tech game. So here we are now. The Hurricanes take their first loss of the season, and it's troubling as we look moving forward.
I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm not that worried about it. And that's probably surprising to the chat, but like this is kind of just to a long time ago. Our buddy Bill Connolly wrote an article called like the anatomy of an upset, and it's basically like one team finishes all their drives in the red zone, which Tech did, right? Like they had 4 good drives in this game, and they got touchdowns on all 4 of them. You know, Miami had they were stopped on 4th down 3 times. They're making like the plus EV decision to go. Like it's the right call. It's not a Mario doing something dumb there. Like that's the right move. I think on all 3 of those, like as far as just the proper way to play it. You have the fumble. I just felt like some days you're not quite as crisp. And like if they play that game tomorrow, I think Miami probably beats them by 10 plus, to be honest. But they didn't. Like Tech came out, they executed well. They forced Miami to stay disciplined defensively. Miami at times wasn't. Are they starting to get a little too banged up at D tackle as well?
Dude, forget D tackle. I mean, even at secondary, because
well, that we talked about on the Monday show upon a further review. Remember, we brought this up. It was like Richard, with him being quote unquote significant according to Mario, and it's the Brown, the other corner who's still out. Like that secondary wasn't good before with those guys. I'm not saying it was bad, but it wasn't a strength of the team, and now you're kind of banged up there. And although Tech didn't pass the ball worth a damn, it still impacts your run fit stuff, right? And Tech did a nice job of forcing Miami's corners to tackle, and Miami's corners did not tackle well enough.
Daryl Porter also got banged up in this game, and they had just moved Daryl from nickel to like outside corner because of the other injuries that they had right there. So we're like grabbing at stuff, trying to put pieces together with this secondary. I think that there's a lot more to be concerned about for sure.
I felt like this was kind of fluky, kind of along what Bud was saying. And I know it, you think, oh no, Miami's been messing around like this all year long. They get into these, they get down and they come back and they win. And I know that was the case here. And eventually when you do that, when you play with fire, kids, you're going to get burned. But to me, it's like Miami only scored 23 points. They had scored at least 36 in every single damn game that they played. So I do feel like this was kind of like Bud was saying. It was just the anatomy of the upset. They only had the 2 red zone drives. They got the 6 points out of it. Meanwhile, Georgia Tech got 28. They only had 1 turnover. It was just they didn't score points, which is kind of important in a football game. But to your point earlier, Chip, like Cam Ward's numbers look perfectly reasonable for 348 yards, 3 touchdowns, very Heisman-y, but he just didn't look good. Like he was rattled a lot. He looked very anxious. Like he always kind of floats around in the pocket and improvises and does stuff and makes things happen. But I just felt like he didn't really have the same kind of control over it when he was doing it today. And it seemed like, I don't know, he was pressing, he was trying to force some things, and it just didn't work out for him very well. I mean, because they only ended up with 23 points. But I'm more worried about the injuries going forward than what I think this says about Miami, because I still think if I'm handicapping the ACC title race, I'm still taking Miami 8 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think so too. You also want to give Tech some credit here. Like they came out, that was basically like a triple option game. Throwback to the Paul Johnson days in some ways. I was impressed. I think Brent Key does a nice job getting his team up for big games. And some guys do that, right? No?
No, I mean, like, hold on. Damn it. He's beaten like 8 top 10 teams in the ACC.
Right.
Like as an unranked team.
There's some like it feels a little like Tom Herman-ish.
No. Brent Key's got a better record against a better winning percentage against ranked ACC opponents than he does against unranked ACC opponents.
This is my point. It feels Tom Herman-ish, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to get up for the big games, and then it's like, wait, you lost to who?
And, to be
that's
fair,
kind of the progression of a team that's emerging. They play hard.
You're talking about Houston Tom Herman.
Yes, right.
Yeah. At Texas,
my thought is if you were watching a college football recap show at midnight, you probably have been around enough to remember Tom Herman at Houston, but I am glad that you clarified that because not everybody would get that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been around for a long time, but not everybody's been with us for a long time. We appreciate everybody, of course, who's jumping on board. So I think it was a bad loss. I think they got outcoached. I think they got outplayed. I think there were a million chances to win this football game, and the fact that they didn't is maybe not going to matter, but it might matter. And I think that that's going to be really disappointing if it does end up being the difference. The difference in what? We'll see. But this is a game that Miami should have won and did not. And when we're updating a power ratings, we should definitely take into consideration all of the plus EV decisions, the results that matter for the 2024 ACC championship race, for the 2024 college football playoff race. That happened. Clemson bounced back. Miami still has the advantage because Miami beat Louisville. Clemson did not beat Louisville. Like they've got the head-to-head advantage right now against the Tigers, so that if they are stuck trying to get that second spot in the ACC title game to play SMU, Miami would be able to get in. I could see Kyle McCord throwing for 4 touchdowns against a banged up secondary.
So that's always going to Syracuse is always a tough battle for any ACC contender. It's where title hopes go to die.
I mean, it would have been a lot nicer if you went into that with a spot clinched in Charlotte.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't disagree with you that it's a bad loss. I don't think it's a horrible loss though.
No, but it's a bad loss, and it's one that, like, how much it matters, we won't know for a couple weeks. But you're going to go back and, Bud, to your point, here's what I counted up. So 7 possessions got inside the 40. And like some people consider inside the 40-yard line as like scoring position. So those are 7 opportunities inside the 40-yard line. 3 of them end with a turnover on downs, a field goal for another. Like you had cracks at it. You were moving the football and you couldn't come up with it.
All right. The chat wants negativity. I'll give you something. It felt like all of Miami's best plays were Cam Ward doing something really special, or like trick plays, or like fluky. Like the first long touchdown. Are we sure that he's throwing it to that guy?
No, I don't think he was.
Or is it a really bad throw to the other guy? Yeah. It did not feel crisp. Is what that was what we started this Miami breakdown with. Like they weren't crisp. It wasn't just like in rhythm. Ball out, guy open, guy in the right spot, guy catching the ball. It was like, okay, ball out, guy a step off in his route. Okay, maybe mishandle the snap. Okay, ball out. We got a false start. We lined up wrong. They weren't sharp today.
Yeah, like Brown was like reaching back, and then when Arroyo caught it, he seemed surprised that it was like he was like, huh? Whoa. Oh, I better start running.
Do you remember this is 2014. Jameis leads a crazy comeback against Louisville and Petrino in Louisville, and he throws a ball, and there's like it goes to Ermon Lane. I don't know if we can pull this up or show the clip. But the chat might remember this. Like, there's no way this ball is supposed to be caught by Ermon Lane, and like it's just
the entire 2014 Florida State season was plays like that, just pulling it out of their ass.
Just Jameis doing silly stuff.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that like this loss, as far as its biggest impact outside of Miami is that it pretty much guarantees the ACC is a one bid team or one bid league now.
There's a I see
No,
no
I could see an 11-2
title
going.
game loser potentially getting in, but they no longer control it, which is why I say this could be a really bad loss.
Yes.
Because maybe you lose to SMU and Charlotte, and this ends up being what drags you down when you're going up against, when you're sitting there with 2 losses and you're going up against a 3-loss team from the Big Ten or the SEC, and they've just got more better wins that end up giving them a spot instead of you. But look, Miami could still win the ACC championship, have a top 4 seed in the college football playoff, and who knows, be playing for it all on January 20th in Atlanta. That is my respect for Cam Ward. So I can't do. We talk Heisman too much. I don't want to. We do that elsewhere.
What are the odds right now?